Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast designed to analyze the games that we love, the headlines of music, the movies we can't forget. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, and I'm joined by a special guest, Mr. Johnny Meads, a former NFL player. He had been on the podcast, I want to say, his former linebacker in the NFL for the Houston Oilers, Washington Redskins. He had been on many times earlier in the earlier years of the podcast, but thank you so much for being on, Mr. Johnny.
My pleasure, Wellington. Obviously, it's good to be on again and talk a little football and whatever else will be what topics we'll be speaking on.
Absolutely, sir. And definitely, we have to get to the Super Bowl, the Eagles blowing out Kansas City. The final score, 40-22, doesn't
Mhm.
even do justice for what happened. Because at one point it was 34-0. So I
Right.
mean, they were dominant. Cooper to Josh Sweat and the Eagles, just ferocious defense was nonstop all night, getting 6 sacks. Even had 4 sacks in the first half. And Jalen Hurts threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for a score on a tush push. And the thing that stood out to me was obviously that 4-man rush for the
Yeah.
Eagles. They were just like heavily going at Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes threw a pick six. He looked inept. Honestly, that's the worst performance I ever saw from him.
I know he looked a bit scared
Yeah,
at points in time, and to the point where at later on in the game that you just knew it wasn't going to happen for
wasn't
him.
his night.
It was just going to be a case where the points they put up was just basically garbage points. But back to your point about the defensive line, we know and everybody talks about the fact that that Philly's defense was going to be the focal point,
Yes,
and one of the reasons why they would have a shot at winning, and they showed ultimate dominance
they did.
to like we talked about and made a case that when you are able to put pressure on a quarterback with just your 4-man rush and have everybody else back there, which is why they had the turnovers, interceptions, and things like that. It shows that you can do a defense can do damage and be the reason for winning championships, as they say. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And another thing I wanted to say was like that's the toughest thing for. I saw Trent Dilfer say on a podcast that's the toughest thing for a quarterback to deal with. Like when Brady dealt with it, it was tough. Like is there any like what what does it do to a quarterback to have to deal with that constantly when he's just like, oh, this is what I'm gonna have to deal with all
This wouldn't
night.
be it. Just like this, I was mentioning it. If you saw Patrick, the expressions totally different, right? From the times that when he's rolling and doing the
Winning and
things
just
that, yeah,
just flowing.
you can see a different, a
It's
totally
like it's
different.
like a psychological
Oh
change.
yeah, and I hesitate to say that because you're professional, but you're kind of scared, but
Mm,
you're not frightened because oh, what's going to happen to me? It's just say, oh, now I got to deal with this defensive. I know they're going to come after me. I know
yes.
they've been getting after me all day long, and it's not going to stop. And
Mm,
that's what you're afraid of, and therefore not able to, as you're saying, what a quarterback's thinking. You're not able to do anything else but think about the defensive line
mm,
coming after you, rather than what are my
yeah.
options. Reading the defense and what the defensive backs are doing, and what my receivers are doing. You're not reading that. You're afraid of
It's
the D line.
it takes me back like in another sport. It takes me back to the NBA back in I think 2015 when Cleveland and Golden State where like the Cavs were so dead set on, hey, we don't want Steph to get comfortable at all. It was then one timeout. Steph tried to get a three off, and LeBron blocked it. Said, "I don't want him getting comfortable. I don't want to see one shot go
Don't
down.
want,
I don't want to see him see
that's it.
like that's the thing with Mahomes. You have to be like, I don't want him to get comfortable
You don't want
once.
to get comfortable, and if he does, and you're going to think that it's going to be something that we're going to have to now we got to contend with this guy,
Yes.
rather than keep him at bay the whole time, which is what the just like to your point, what it's kind of like what the Philly defensive line did. They just kept putting pressure on him. I'm not going to let you get comfortable. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
what the situation is. We're not going to let you get comfortable, and we're going to keep coming after you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing is with Jalen Hurts, I think he had 250 yards or
Mm-hmm.
and had 2 touchdowns. And to me, like this was one of the best performances. I mean, probably the best performance of Jalen Hurts' career. I mean, this is the biggest game, so you have to say
Biggest
it's the best
game,
one. You know what I mean?
one,
High
one,
stakes.
no
And
doubt,
he just looked so comfortable. So like,
comfortable.
even now, Saquon Barkley was not dominant. Only had
No,
57 yards, but the guy who had to get the job done, the guy who we kind of questioned at times, who I was kind of skeptical of, he stepped up.
He stepped up
He
big
looked big
time.
time and outplayed Patrick Mahomes.
Without question. And
Yeah.
and the thing that we like about him is the fact that we said a humble guy, a guy that kind of plays within himself for the most part. Not he's not going to do too many things that's going to be out of the ordinary. But as we said too, pinpoint passes. I mean, it was a case where you're putting passes where they need to be to the receivers. It was just like you said, a spectacular,
Absolutely.
dominant performance. That's what it was, and no doubt warranted the MVP.
It definitely did.
Mm-hmm.
And getting to kind of Kansas City's loss, I mean, there's obviously going to be a blame pie when it comes to this because you got Reed, you got Mahomes, you got Kelsey, Steve Spagnuolo. To me, this a lot of this is going to be on Mahomes because of, and not all of it, but he's the best player. He's the best player. You know what I mean? And he that interception Pixies was confounding to me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It was a type of play that you would not see him normally.
You wouldn't see him do that, and all of his career. But it's what I think about him is that in cases like this, he's going to be somebody. If you know Patrick Mahomes, you know him, and like him or not, he's going to be back. I mean, he's going to be back, and he's going to somehow, some way show that wasn't like me, right? And
that's a stain, like that. Like honestly, like even if he wins, like he like I think he has to win at least 2 just to like get that off. Like, hey, I got 5. Don't think, but we know what happened.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, because you're gonna still, even though he's gonna win that 1 or 2 more.
That
if he does,
I know.
Yeah.
Like to be honest, like how deep do, like from what you know from NFL players, how deep do the Super Bowl losses stick with them? Even though like the people who won multiple ones, how deep like do the losses stick with them? Even if they won.
It's the one that I was most involved with, and was the Green Bay Packers when they lost to Denver in Elway's Super Bowl win, final Super Bowl win. That put Green Bay and that franchise back a little. You thought they were rolling. They were gonna, back in the day, 1997 or whatever it was, but you thought they were gonna, win a few more Super Bowls rather than they just shrunk back. It leaves a huge mark on you, and you have to be someone with the kind of staying power and whatever that thing is to come back from that. It takes a lot, Wellington, to be able, because it's, as we say and as we know, it's the biggest game, and then you virtually lay an egg in the biggest game, not to mention when you're supposed to be the best quarterback in the league, right? And you play that terribly.
And you're like the face, and I think he's honest, because you look at commercials, you see him and Travis Kelce, you see like they're on a lot, State Farm, all that. They are becoming, he's becoming the face of the league.
The face of the league,
and I think players know that. Like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, they probably were looking at Super Bowl like, man, why? How can we beat him and get to this point? You know what I mean? Because it's like the AFC, he has that on lockdown.
No doubt.
His 2 Super Bowl losses have been blowouts: the Tampa Bay one and the Philadelphia one.
So it's going to be something that I'm knowing him, he's going to try to come back from, and will no doubt come back from. To be, again, we're not talking about him not being a formidable player, but he's going to try to look back on, come back from it. But to your point, it's still going to be something that's going to be a stain.
You just know, as a competitor, he's going to rewatch that game and be like, man, I could have done this.
Yeah. What did I? But 2 things with that. He's going to watch it and say how bad I sucked, but then at the same time, he's going to somehow rewire himself to I'm going to come back from that because of the competitor that he is.
And that's the one thing I wanted to get to. Like when you have a loss, like I mean, they were winning. It's been so long since we have seen them lose, winning and winning. Do you think
Mm.
at it could kind of be a like a reinvigoration, like oh, like I got something to really like prove
Yeah, I
again.
could
You know
work.
what I
Yeah, I
mean?
got to
I
work
can't
something
just
to
rest
work
on
for
I
again.
can't rest on my
Yeah,
laurels and be like,
yeah,
well, we're winning all the
yeah.
time.
So I got to still put in the work. I got to
Yeah,
still, because just like anybody, any top, the LeBrons and all, you
mhm.
got everything, but there's still something
There's
that
something
you
that
want to,
gets you up in the
yeah,
morning. Yeah,
got to get you up and get you going. And for him, this is what it's going to be.
yeah.
It's no doubt got to be, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, it
Uh,
definitely is. And like when we've mentioned it's so funny that Tom Brady was the guy who was commentating that game.
Announcing the
And I
game,
think
yeah.
and people were saying, like his presence just has an effect on Mahomes having bad
Uh,
performances, this and that. But like the thing, like when we mentioned like the GOAT conversation, because it's like, you have Brady, Montana, Mahomes, like obviously Brady has 7 rings, but do you think it's even fair to like put Mahomes in that GOAT conversation early on when he's just still only 29 and I still has a lot of football left to play?
and that's the reason why I would.
Mm,
Wellington, because of how good he is now, and when you can be that good this young,
yeah.
you know that means that if he's the type of person that we all see him to be and think that he is, he's going to do nothing but work to get better and
Yes.
better, and because seems to be that kind of guy. So,
Mm,
and answering your question, yeah, I think it's not too unfair to
yeah.
put him in that category, especially this kind of, again, like we just mentioned, this
Yeah.
set him back a little bit,
It
because
did.
we
Yeah.
were just talking about the
You
three-peat,
could get
right?
four. I mean, like, but that's the thing. That is the thing, like the fascinating thing, because after that loss to Brady, it was people were like, yeah, they did the same thing they're doing now. It's the GOAT debate is over. It's over.
Yeah,
But if he had the three-peat, you have 4 titles at 29 and three-peat, that I think the case would have been more interesting. But I still,
yeah,
even with the loss, he has three. He still has
yeah,
three. So
yeah.
it's
He,
like he
he
can
has
win.
three, and then so young to be able to come back, and somehow I think it's going to be a case where he's gonna reinvigorate himself, and he's going to come back.
Oh
He's
yeah.
going to come back from it. Yeah.
Definitely. And now getting into kind of we also have the debate about can a team get back to this stage, like the Eagles now. Like Saquon Barkley said he thinks they can form a dynasty now. And the Commanders, we saw how Jaden Daniels was, just
My
looked
God. Yeah.
great, so good. And we're gonna get to the Cowboys and kind of Dak Prescott's comments, but looking at the Eagles though, like how do you think, because I think like man, this team's gonna be really good with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley being together for years, and Saquon Barkley reinvigorated now, being in a good organization. Like what do you see in terms of their opportunity to get back to this stage
To
possible?
get back, I think it's obviously, no doubt, is possible, and something that they can do, because this is what now we do, right?
Yeah,
In the league, it's a case where, can we do it again?
yeah,
and
run it
and
back.
and yeah, and see, because doing it, I know you want to do it, and initially doing it, and when you do it, it's going to be a case where,
Mm,
man, we won a championship, but now what can we do after that? Can
next year,
we?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, with that being said, I think with those places, with those pieces in place,
mm,
the Saquon, come on, we can't talk about him enough. That he would have had Eric Dickerson's record if he wouldn't have sat, right.
yeah,
And you talking about the fact that he, this young man, again, Jalen Hurts took over in the Super Bowl, but this young man was
carried them
so,
to yeah,
yeah, he was so hungry he's, man, the things that he did over the course of the year, with someone like him in place. Again, you're talking about, um, you know, Jalen, who's the most humble guy that you can ever
mm,
consider.
yeah,
They have AJ Brown. I read something about him today, saying that the Super Bowl was kind of anticlimactic, right? He's like it wasn't all that it was wrapped up to be to him.
mm,
So which kind of made me feel like he wants to come back and just to do it again
Yeah,
and see.
and when you hear comments like that, that makes me think, oh, this team wants to do it. This team wants to do
Yeah,
it bad.
yeah,
They
right.
want it. They want it
So
bad.
they want it. Not to say, obviously, and we're obviously going forward into next year, they're going to have some teams like you mentioned with Washington
Washington.
in that division. At the same time,
What were your
pushing.
thoughts on what Jaden Daniels did? Because I think that was one of the most legendary rookie seasons
Oh,
ever.
without question,
Yeah.
I thought it was. Um, I remember going back to when we first started talking when
Mm.
Lamar Jackson came in. Remember that when
Yes,
we first
yes.
started talking about that was the kind of
That's kind of the year.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but he exceeded that obviously, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and he was you know giving them those those fantastic wins and the spectacular plays and having the type of team that they had. They have some, not the pristine parts that some players rather that some of the teams have, but
Yeah.
him being the guy to spearhead all of that. And it was one of those deals where and you just knew that it was it was almost he was almost unstoppable,
Yeah.
right? I
So
mean,
unstoppable.
it was
it
it was
it was just so
crazy.
crazy the run that he was on. The run that he was on was just phenomenal.
Without, it was
Yeah.
awesome. It was awesome. So yeah, with him being you know in the fold with you know like Lamar Jackson is still there, and man, it's going to be a fun ride to have them, because I know we're talking about Philly trying to do it again. They have to up their game,
They have
right?
to, yeah.
They can't they if they're going to be hunted anyway, right? Because they're going to
Yeah,
be.
and that's the thing. They're about to experience what Kansas City has experienced the last few years. They're
Mhm.
the hunted ones. You're the
They'd
hunted
have
ones.
hunted. So
You
now
have to
you,
target.
you got you got you got to up your game,
Yeah.
and I like I said, I don't have any doubt that with like I said, when you have those parts,
Yes.
everybody had, going back to Dallas and Troy Aikman, they had
Hmm.
Emmett, and they they have the
All those
receiver, they
guys.
have the quarterback, and they have the running back, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to, not to mention, and everybody, that's the flash guys,
Yeah.
but they have the D line and the defense
Exactly.
to boot. So they're going to be formidable going forward. They,
Yeah.
they surely are,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
they're going to look to do that repeat thing.
And that's really the interesting part about this for the AFC, because Josh Allen just won
The
MVP.
MVP,
Lamar Jackson, had,
runner up, closest race.
and that game, the Mark Andrews drop is just like, it's just one of the most, it's the most brutal drop I've ever seen.
Yes, yeah,
That I've seen in my general. I know you've probably seen some different
yeah.
drops as well, but when you look at the AFC, like, could we get a different AFC team finally? Could this be the
Mm,
year where and I still think Kansas City's going to be back. They're
hmm
they're, they're going to be good, but out of those two teams, Buffalo and Baltimore, like, which one could actually possibly push Kansas City?
Because of what you saw in Baltimore, just with the exception of the drop, they can be a team that, and they always, we got to talk about that too, Wellington, the fact that they always have a formidable defense.
Always, yeah.
So that's the thing that's gonna, with Lamar in place, and
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry, even though he's getting old. So you got some pieces like that to do some damage, and you got a formidable defense. They're the team. Buffalo, to me, um, just, I don't know if you'll agree, but they just have Josh Allen. You know what I mean? They don't
Yeah,
have the
I like,
parts
yeah, I really like Josh Allen, but it's just like there's something missing. There's just still
missing.
something
Yeah,
missing,
yeah.
and again, like, I know, like, there's king with curses, but man, they have one of the worst curses like ever. It just feels there's a mosquito, like, 4 straight Super Bowl
Yeah,
losses. You know what I mean? It's just like
it's
I
like
think last year the missed field goal against there's just so many times it's like it's this close. Oh, every
yeah,
year it's this
every
close.
year is
It just gets
something.
worse. It gets more painful.
Yeah, I know for sure. Especially when you have an MVP caliber
Yeah.
player, then you
And
do the
I
things
think this
that
was his best year. I think this was Josh Allen's best year. I think this was his
best
best year.
without question. He was talking about Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
He was the cog in that wheel for them without question. So that's why I think to your point that Baltimore be their best nemesis in terms of going after both Kansas City and the
Yeah.
possibility of getting to the Super Bowl um, over a team
Yeah.
like KC.
And again, and now we have to get to America's team, the team that always stays in the headlines, the Dallas
Yeah,
Cowboys.
for whatever reason.
For whatever reason, I told my dad the other day, there's no reason we should any other team that has a bad record like that, we're not talking about them. But because they're because they have the star, because they have the star, we're talking about them. He's so in an interview recently, Dak Prescott says at a children's cancer fund gala announcement, he says, quote, I feel like we've competed with the Eagles and beat them for the most part when we played them. I don't want to say check the record when the other guy's holding the trophy, right? So credit to them, they've earned it and they deserve it by all means. But yeah, very close, especially even when watching the NFC Championship and those two teams that we battle. So end quote. So he says he thinks they're very close. He thinks they're very close. And obviously, like you said this before the recording, you gotta say that. You gotta
say that. You gotta be confident in yourself.
You want to say, but again, realistically,
yeah, realistically, no way in heck that they're close.
Washington is closer. Washington is closer.
Thank you, right? And the fact that he's been injured, the fact they got a new coach. I mean, what do you say? You're not that close. You can't. You got to
give the delusional Cowboy fans some hope.
Yeah, and you don't want to say rebuilding, but for all intents and purposes, they're almost there. It's like new coaching and
like Schottenheimer's your coach.
Yeah. Wow. Right.
Like that was
out of nowhere, huh? Out of nowhere, like that came out of left field for sure.
New Cowboys coach Brian Schottenheimer. I was like, wow, okay, that's stunning.
Yeah. and like you said, we're still talking about him, and we'll be talking about him. Wellington, we'll be talking about him some more for,
of course,
these same reasons, like what we're talking about now. Because Schottenheimer's your coach, and I just don't know how well they're going to do. I mean, I wish them well because we like Dak, right?
Yeah, Dak is a solid QB, but not great. Great. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And too many times we've seen them at 11 and 5, 12 and 4, and they just like get blown out by the Packers.
They don't want to win the bigger game.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And now obviously there has been the news of today. Aaron Rodgers, the Jets, they're trying to move on from him. Woody John said he embodied what it meant to be a Jet, embrace our fans, immerse himself in our city. And they said, last week that they met with him, and there's so many things with this Aaron Rodgers Jets era. I mean, he returned from Achilles tendon, turned 41 in December, started 17 games. And even the 20 touchdowns were the third best single totals in franchise history, 3,897 yards. So he had the stats, but the winning wasn't there. And it's like, can he be that impact winner? Like we were talking about, we were like just grasping for straws. What team can he go to?
Can he go to?
Pittsburgh? I'm at a Mr. I don't know what team he can go to. No, at this point, I really don't know.
We don't know, and to that point, we're going to be surprised whatever team that he does eventually, because as we said, he has, with those stats you mentioned, and his ability as a Hall of Fame quarterback, he's gonna do well for whatever team, because it's a case where quarterback play is a premium, and he's a premium quarterback. So
yes, absolutely.
He's gonna wind up somewhere, because there's a lot of places that he could do well, but we just don't see it, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. We just don't see it just materializing. I think this is the place that he's gonna go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So
We'll see.
yeah, it's definitely one of those things that we'll wait and see. I did
Yeah.
want to get to some NBA topics because I mean
Yeah.
the Lakers, man, they get Luka Doncic, who I am a big fan of.
Big,
I
huge.
didn't expect it's the to me it's the most shocking trade we've seen in a while because
Without
Luka Doncic
question.
is 25. He's
Right.
25 and like they were in the NBA finals. It's not like they were first round. Like they were literally in the NBA finals and had a great run and lost to Boston obviously, but I
We're,
think this is my take on the early
tell
stages.
me.
They looked good against Utah, but the thing I'm going to say is this: can their defense be good? Because I know Luka's going to put up points. I know LeBron can play off ball, but it's like, can that defense be good
Well,
against
in a
OKC
word,
and Minnesota?
no,
Yeah, no,
because
exactly. Very simple. Thank you. Analysis is
they
right there.
yeah, but the fact that they do have him, and going back to the 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 weirdness,
Yeah.
if you will, with regard to how Dallas decides to, you know, get rid of a premier player
Have we
at that
ever,
age.
from what you remember, have you ever seen a like a star that young, like who was about to enter his prime, be traded like that?
No,
I can't think of any. Like
no.
maybe Lou Alcindor with Milwaukee, but that's the only one. That's the
That's
only
thinking
one.
about that, and but you're talking about a different era too, you know,
Yeah,
because you're not talking about an era where
that was a nerdy stat, listeners. I know
yeah,
we're going way
yeah, yeah,
back.
but it's the thing that I still can't get over, as much as we love all our LeBron fans and LA fans.
Mhm.
We love that, he's going to be without question help there. The the question remains, what the heck were you thinking? I mean, you're still asking the GM there, and he still
I
doesn't have
mean,
an
LeBron
answer.
is the GM, right? LeBron, he has to run the plays. He's like,
Yeah.
I sign off on Anthony Davis getting traded, even though he
Oh,
lied about it. It's like I
yeah,
know he did.
it's crazy.
Yeah, so I personally think, I think this team could get to the Western Conference Finals, but I don't think they can beat the OKC. I think OKC is really good.
Oh my
OKC, I
God.
love
There,
Shea. I love Shea. I love Shed.
yeah,
There's this
that's,
young, like budding energy that's like
I
I see
know.
that I see that as the next team.
I totally agree with you. SGA, he's just one of the smoothest
Yeah,
players, right?
that's the perfect. His game is just like
It's
smooth as
so
butter. I'm like,
smooth.
I love watching
Just
this
so
guy.
smooth, man.
I
And
was sad when I had to leave watching him. I was like, I love watching
it's just,
that
just, just
so
balling.
good,
It's
so
like,
good.
oh, look at him.
And
Look
he's
at him do that.
confident. His demeanor is always the
Oh
same.
man,
He just never rap. I'm like, he's never rap.
that
I was
is
like, that
so.
guy has the it factor. He's got the it factor.
There's no question, no
Yeah.
question. And he has a few players around him, few pretty good players. But and with him, I don't think you need that guy. You know what I'm saying? You wanna have. I think the guys that he has around him are, what he needs.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, that's the
and
thing. Because I heard somebody say this, and I understand why you would think this. They were like, get Kevin Durant. I'm like, don't mess up this young
don't
nucleus.
mess. No,
Because Kevin
no.
Durant brings not in a bad way, but he brings like championship pedigree, ego, and it's like, hey, I'm the guy.
I'm the
So
guy,
you
and
bring in a conflict.
no, without question. And somebody that's what just saw the stat. He's like the sixth,
Yes,
yeah, the sixth best scoring
best
player in
scorer,
the in the in
and
the,
I personally think I said this to somebody. I think he could end up being the greatest scorer.
the yeah.
Yeah, take it all.
He's a great player that's in a different way, like SGA.
Mhm,
Just smooth. A really skilled player.
mhm.
But back to OKC. I like the fact that they're in that market. They have,
Yes.
that they just have
We
they have it
love
going.
seeing the small markets win because it's just I know the commissioner wants to see LA and this, but
Yeah,
it's just
all the
something
time.
about it takes me back to that 2011 2012 era when we saw KD, Russ, and James Harden. It was just something like so fresh and new. I was like,
Yeah, no
you
doubt.
liked it. It was just like, yo, these are young guys who just they're in that small market and they're
Yeah,
great.
they're going for it.
Yeah.
And to that point too, I don't think after they, which I hope they do, like we're talking about,
Mm.
are able to at least get to,
The finals.
yeah, there won't be like the James Hardens and the Westbrooks that can't even want to get
Yes.
out of there. You know what I mean? That's what I think.
Yeah, because
It's,
at some point for some reason they get disgruntled with the small market. They're
yeah,
like, I want to
yeah,
get traded.
yeah. I want to be
Yeah.
where the lights are and all of that kind
You
of
think
stuff.
that's gonna
And
happen? You think that's gonna happen with SGA?
that's why I think. That's why I said I don't think it will. That's
Yeah,
the difference between them. That
yeah.
he's
He's
gonna
hungry.
bring that. Yeah, going to bring that hunger and that that type of play that he has in that small market. And when hopefully they win something, he
Yeah.
won't want to say, "Oh, I want a boat. I want to." I mean, he's a Canadian kid. It's like I'm cool where I am.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
Yeah,
so
definitely. And I wanted to get to obviously the other person in the trade, Anthony Davis. He suffered a groin injury in his debut with the team. They're saying he's going to miss multiple weeks because of the injury, and it's almost like the first day of the game when he's showing up. The Lakers are like, "Hey, this is what we meant. This guy gets injured all the time. Like this is what we
yeah.
were talking about. Like we have to set up this was the post succession plan for after LeBron. Let's
Yeah,
have a guy who's going to actually be
and
stable. You know,
and we can get him
yeah,
and Luca, and we got a guy like that to trade for him. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, it was a good deal. And to see AD, I mean, he had 25 points at that point
Yes,
in time, and
he was
it just first
looking
game
good.
out,
Yeah,
yeah,
and then
balling,
it's just like because that's the thing with AD, the potential is like through the roof.
yeah, way up there,
It's
way
like
up there.
it's scary how good he can be.
It could be
But it's
all
when
the
he's
way
on the
back to
court.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
That's why he left. And this guy's we need a guy like that in LA
Absolutely.
until he gets injured. So that's the kind of player he was, and that's the kind of player he is. Just to show you, get you all lathered up and
Yeah.
excited.
That's the thing. It's like, oh my goodness, the stars are aligning. This is gonna be the most dominant big. And then it's like, well, gets injured.
Yeah, yeah,
It happens. And that's the thing with injury prone players, even Kawhi Leonard. I think Kawhi Leonard is gonna have a shorter career than we thought.
mm-hmm.
Because of just how many injuries he's endured. And I think that takes a toll on your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so,
without question. Yeah, he's going to have problems.
So definitely,
as good as he is.
Oh yeah. So
I love Kawhi's game.
Kawhi was my like
yeah.
the Toronto year in 2019.
Oh my
what
God!
He did and that was down
by
0-2,
himself.
down 0-2 against exactly down 0-2 against Milwaukee. Should not have been in that team. They won 4 straight.
Yeah.
Then goes and beats the 2-time champs and the Warriors. So it's just like that was such an impressive run. Even beyond San Antonio. San Antonio was great too, but
yeah, he was good there.
That Toronto run was special. That was a special run, a 1 year run. Because everybody knew he was going to be there 1 year. They're like, he's not going to stay here.
Yeah, he's not going to
go to LA.
There.
Yeah, he's going to go to LA. The last thing I wanted to get to though was Golden State because they've been looking good. Obviously, with Jimmy Butler, I think they've won 3 straight, and Jimmy Butler is obviously a contentious player, but a big playoff Jimmy. Jimmy. And so now you got Steph Curry, who's like, okay, I finally got some help again. I finally got some help. He's got the playoff experience. They could get possibly to the 6th seed and play Denver in the first round. The projections are saying. But what do you think about what Jimmy Butler is going to bring? Because obviously he brings experience, but there's that also. I personally just the first thing pops in my head is him and Draymond. Like, what if him and Draymond clash? Like you know what I mean? Because it's just like,
yeah, I didn't think about it, but that's
a possibility.
That is.
But what are your initial thoughts on this trade?
Really, not thinking that way because him wanting to get out of Miami and go to a team such as this.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a huge plus for them, especially when. And he's been doing it already, but when they do what they do to Steph, and they'll have somebody else, right?
They'll do like almost like what Nick Nurse did at Toronto, the boxing one when he used the boxing one on rare.
So they're gonna have somebody, and he's the kind of guy that can step up and do it.
Yeah.
So
as we saw what he did, hey, this guy was a part of an 8th seed that went to the NBA Finals. An 8th seed, like that never happened.
He took him there, but on his shoulders.
Yeah.
He's just he's a special player, and I think that he's gotten an opportunity, just like it kind of reminds me of KD going there and helping out. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
let's get these guys, uplift them, because they had, without question, with the exception of Steph being Steph, they had
Mhm.
taken a step back.
Yeah.
Right? So they needed somebody like this, like Jimmy buckets
And
to,
it's kind of
help.
reinvigorated them. It's
Yeah,
giving them energy. It's giving them
no doubt,
energy
no
again.
doubt.
Yeah.
And they have some other
Some
pieces
young
as
players.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So I
I think it's
honestly think this could be a good Golden State year. I mean, obviously how
yeah,
far they go into the playoffs, that's gonna be, but I think they could be a second round team. I think they could
yeah,
be a second round team.
yeah,
Not going too far, but I think this could be a, because
yeah.
then you have
It
that
can be.
playoff grittiness with Jimmy Butler, and then you have Steph. Steph's like, I can live now. I can be
Yeah,
Steph Curry
I can.
again. I can be Steph
And
Curry again.
without question. But the only thing that I pause, um, that gives me pause is their age. Both of them are
Because now
kind
they're
of up
getting that uphill.
there.
That's
Yeah,
so crazy that we're talking, like they have been on a run for years, and now
yeah, I
they're
know.
getting into that upper
At
eight.
the age, yeah,
So
and both of them are there. So that's the only thing that I question, that if they can, kind of summon some, you know, one more time
Fountain of
to
Youth,
get them.
come on, the
Yeah,
Fountain of Youth one more time.
yeah,
Let's get there.
yeah. Let's get there, and they can do some damage at that point. And I think
Definitely.
both of them can do it if like you say, buy some time to get there, and then let's see what happens in the playoffs.
Yeah, and real quick before we close out, we talked a lot about the West Kings, but the East, Boston and Cleveland, they're kind of the top two. The Knicks as well with Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah. Oh
Is
my
there
God.
one team in the East that you're like, I'm confident that they can, make a run?
I like
Or two?
Cleveland.
Yeah, I like Cleveland
Yeah,
too.
I like Cleveland. I with you talking about injuries, we were talking about injuries to your main players. I like the Bucks still.
Yes, still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like them. They
Because
kind of
Giannis is always going to be a
Giannis is
factor.
there, and
But it's still,
Dime.
fifth in the East, not doing bad.
Yeah,
Fifth in the East. Got the Pacers
uh,
at 4. So,
Dame still
and I
can
like
do
Tyrese
things.
Halliburton. I like
Yeah,
Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah.
so we can do some damage there. So, but Cleveland's they started off so hot, and they kind of been maintaining it. Wellington,
Yes. Yes.
that's the thing. Playing tough, basketball, and got some pretty good players in good spots.
Mm.
The fact that they're going to do some damage, I think, in the East. That's what Boston's going to be there. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
I'm
that's the thing
not.
I want to
Yeah,
say. Yeah,
yeah,
Jalen
yeah.
Brown and Jason Tatum, they're going to be there.
Yeah, they're going to be there.
Those two
I'm
headed
just saying,
monsters.
who's going to. We're just talking about who's going to be, their competition. And
Yeah.
and that being said, Cleveland kind of handed it to them, I think, a couple times this
They
year.
have. So I think that
So,
might be. I honestly envision that being a 6-7 game series. I think
yeah,
that's going to be
I
a
think
six
it's gonna
seven
be
game
it's gonna be
series.
tough. It's gonna be
So
tough. So
Boston's going to have their
it's
hands
it,
full this year. They're going to have their
yeah,
hands full.
but with New York, with the
I like Jalen
with the
Brunson.
big cat and Jalen
I
Brunson. Oh
love.
my God.
He's such a New York point guard. He gets
Yeah,
expected as a John Stark. I like this
yeah,
guy
all
is
those
such a New
guys,
York guy. He's
tough
such a New
guy,
York guy. Gritty. They're gonna
just
play 48
gritty.
minutes. They're not gonna take one break, not one water break.
They
Tom
are
Thibodeau's gonna
so.
run him to the ground.
I know, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be it's a interesting, situation in the East. I
Yeah, and
like
I like the fact that
like those.
the Knicks are relevant again. That's good. I
Yeah,
think that's good for them being relevant
without
this year.
question,
So,
and can be.
well, Mr.
Yeah.
Johnny, absolute pleasure. This felt like
Ah,
old times again.
right.
We're gonna do it more frequently, especially
For
when football
sure,
comes
for
back.
sure.
So
Now
appreciate you, sir.
we're back on point. So we'll be talking some more. I appreciate you having me, and you have a blessed night.
Yes, sir. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Bye now.